Welcome to this explainer. If you've tuned into a top-tier football match lately, you've probably noticed something. The game? It is absolutely breathless, faster and more intense than ever before. Well, today, we're diving into exactly how that happened. We're going to trace the steps of a few legendary managers who basically took the traditional tactical rulebook, completely tore it up, and forever changed the way this sport is played.
Right, let's kick things off with a quote from Jürgen Klopp, because it honestly redefines how we even think about defending. He famously said, "Defending is our first offensive action." Historically, right, defending was just about survival. You packed the penalty box, crossed your fingers, and prayed you didn't concede a goal. But in the modern game, defending is literally a weapon. It's the launch pad for your entire attack.
So, here's our tactical chalkboard for today. First, we'll look at the godfather of Gegenpressing, then move into Klopp's high-intensity revolution. After that, we'll dissect the actual anatomy of a press, explore the intense tactical arms race between Klopp and Guardiola, and finally, bring it all down to the training pitch.
Okay, starting with Section 1, the godfather of Gegenpressing, Ralf Rangnick, and his incredible tactical awakening.
Now, you hear the word gegenpressing a lot, but what does it actually mean in action? Basically, it's the tactic of instantly, and I mean instantly, fighting to win the ball back the absolute second you lose it, instead of retreating into a defensive shape. It's wildly proactive, it's aggressive, and it relies on incredibly fast processing speeds from the players. It's kind of like flipping a switch from defense back to attack in just a millisecond.
And it's wild to see how this one idea just spread like wildfire. It actually started way back in 1984. Ralf Rangnick was playing a friendly against Dynamo Kyiv, and he had this literal tactical epiphany about high pressing. Fast forward to 1998, and he's getting branded a professor for explaining zonal marking on German TV. He then uses these exact tactics to rocket Hoffenheim into the Bundesliga by 2008. And the crown jewel? He takes this entire philosophy to Red Bull in 2012, building a billion-dollar global football empire founded completely on aggressive, attacking principles.
That brings us to Section 2, Klopp's high-intensity revolution, and how he basically shook English football wide awake.
Think back to before Klopp arrived at Liverpool in late 2015. The English Premier League was honestly a bit of a paradox. On one hand, financially dominant, just flush with massive TV deals, but tactically, it was surprisingly stagnant. Teams played a little bit of everything, but they mastered absolutely nothing. They totally lacked the highly specific, hyper-focused tactical identities that were dominating over on the continent. So, ironically, the richest league in the world was kind of living in complete tactical limbo.
Then, Klopp shows up. And to understand his impact, just wrap your head around this staggering number. 287. That is how many times Jürgen Klopp's Liverpool won possession in the attacking third during the 2021 to 2022 season. To really put that into perspective for you, when Klopp first arrived in England, the entire league average was just 3.5 attacking third regains per game. So yeah, Klopp's heavy metal gegenpressing machine literally shattered the previous averages. He proved, without a doubt, that coordinated chaos could just dismantle traditional English defenses.
And Klopp made it crystal clear to his squad that this new style, not optional. He flat out said pressing is the next requirement. And to be clear, this isn't laid down as a proposal, it's a law. I mean, imagine your boss telling you that running yourself into the ground to the point of total physical exhaustion isn't a suggestion, it's a non-negotiable law. But, he also told them that making mistakes under that pressure was totally fine, as long as the intensity never, ever dropped.
But how does a law like that actually play out on the pitch? Let's dive into Section 3, the anatomy of a press.
When you watch a high press happen live, it honestly just looks like exhausting random chaos, right? But actually, it's a highly calculated trap. Liverpool's high regains follow a very strict three-step formula. Step 1 is the trigger. You only jump when the opponent is at a clear disadvantage, like, say, when the guy receiving the ball physically cannot see forward. Step 2 is coverage. The whole midfield shifts to protect the spaces the pressing player just left behind. And Step 3, the next action, the absolute millisecond the ball is stolen, your very first look has to be forward, straight into the spaces that the disorganized defense just left wide open.
So, players are out there literally hunting for specific visual cues. Those are the triggers. It's like a predator spotting a weakness. They're scanning for a receiver facing his own goal, a fullback trapped out against the touchline, a player with a closed body shape, or even just a horribly slow pass. It's all pattern recognition. The second they spot one of these cues, boom, the trap snaps shut.
A truly visceral example of this structured pressure was Liverpool's famous 2019 Champions League comeback against Barcelona. Liverpool deliberately forced Barcelona out toward the flanks, and the exact second a Barca player played a backward pass, the forwards jumped, and the midfield aggressively squeezed all the space. Barcelona's elite receivers literally could not turn around. They were completely suffocated. It was press triggers translating directly into unstoppable, stadium-shaking momentum.
But of course, every massive tactical innovation eventually meets an equal and opposite reaction. Welcome to Section 4, the tactical arms race between Jürgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola.
We are talking about a clash of absolute opposites here. On one hand, you have Klopp's system, right? High-intensity pressing, rapid vertical passes, deliberate heavy metal chaos just designed to overwhelm you. On the other hand, you've got Guardiola's system. Patient ball circulation, demanding total technical superiority in every single position, and above all else, absolute control.
When Guardiola first landed in England, plenty of critics, including Gary Neville, genuinely questioned if his intricate passing game could even survive the sheer physical demands of the Premier League. Well, Guardiola answered with this number, 8.4. That's the average number of passes his Manchester City teams completed per possession. Instead of trying to match the physical chaos of the league, he just kept the ball away from everyone, forcing opponents into a soul-crushing game of chasing shadows.
And here is where the arms race gets incredibly fascinating. They actually forced each other to evolve. Pure pressing wasn't enough to sustain dominance anymore, so Klopp adapted. He added possession controllers, players like Thiago, into his midfield to dictate the tempo. Meanwhile, Guardiola realized he was super vulnerable to Klopp's rapid transitions, so what did he do? He intentionally slowed City's ball progression down to a glacial 0.84 meters per second while ramping up his own team's pressing in the attacking third. They cross-pollinated their tactics just to survive each other. It's unbelievable.
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, Training the Modern Game, and see how this elite tactical warfare has trickled all the way down.
The stats absolutely prove how much these two managers changed the sport globally. Across the board, we've seen a 46% increase in pressing frequency and a 35% jump in passing complexity. If you've ever stood on the sidelines and wondered why your local under-12 youth team is suddenly obsessed with high pressing, well, this is exactly why. Tactics that were totally revolutionary 10 years ago are now just universally adopted in youth development programs worldwide. The elite arms race fundamentally changed the grassroots game.
So, how do coaches actually teach this stuff? Let's talk about the trigger recognition rondo. It's basically a 6 versus 3 keep-away game. But here's the catch. The 3 defenders are only allowed to fully jump into a press when the coach shouts a specific trigger, like heavy touch or back pass. It trains patience, timing, and pattern recognition instead of just, blind, uncoordinated running. Next up, they scale it to match scenarios with the touchline trap game. In this 5-on-5 setup, the defending team can actually score points by winning the ball back in a wide channel and getting a shot off within 8 seconds. It perfectly simulates trapping a fullback against the sideline, creating that claustrophobic pressure, and striking before the defense even has a second to breathe. Finally, there's the counter press to goal. In a 7-on-7 game, the exact second you lose the ball, a ticking clock starts in your head. 5 seconds, that is all you get to win it back. And if you do, Klopp's law applies. That very next pass must go forward. This drill takes all the anxiety and intensity of the modern game and just burns that next action mentality straight into a player's muscle memory.
So, to wrap things up today, elite teams don't just press anymore, and they don't just possess, they do both. They've effectively fused Klopp's chaos and Guardiola's control into these terrifyingly efficient hybrid systems. With the physical and technical demands on players higher than they have ever been in the history of the sport, how do you think modern football tactics will evolve next? What's going to be the next great tactical awakening? Think about it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we keep unpacking the fascinating systems that shape our world.